Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. On a Sunday, we are Seminoles Sideline 365.
S-T-A-T-E. Yeah.
You guys know the words to that. So, once again, this is Seminoles Sideline 365. Thanks for joining us on another episode on Sunday, March 27th. Close to the end of the month here. I'm KB. I'm here, as always, with Bruce. How's it going today? How was the weekend?
Oh, it's good, man. It's a good weekend. Beautiful weekend down here in Central Florida. Bright sunshine, great temperature. Great temperature for my softball game. We're 9-0 going in. We won our division. We're playing the other division champs. We got crushed. I mean, it just ruined a good morning. I mean, it was like it started out good, right? I'm batting third. I come up, I hit this line drive single, and I'm watching the guy in left field. He's kind of like screwing around just a little bit with the ball. Doesn't feel it. I take off for second. Bam, I'm standing on second base, got the double. They can't get me in. We lose 15-1. 15-1. It was embarrassing. I may enter the old man portal, softball portal. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Well, hopefully your coach isn't listening to this podcast and doesn't take that practice step of cutting you.
But I've had a good season. I've had a really good season. So other than that, I poked a good clean hole through my wall on the outside and ran some electrical cable through. That went well. I'm having a great day.
Awesome. Very good. Very good.
How about you?
Yeah, Friday night got to watch the St. Peter's game at the bar, so that was fun to watch that story. Unfortunately, come to the end today to UNC, but see them on Friday get a big win, which is exciting to watch. And then yesterday I was out in Deal, Maryland, which is a small little town, having an afternoon, cooking, eating. Brought the dogs out there with some friends. Cool. And it's fun. It's just been cold here. It's about 40 low 30s now, but it was great yesterday, and it's good weather, so
super. Well, we've got some cool stuff tonight, right?
Yeah. So we have lots of a couple of different items we're going to talk about. So as many of you all know, or if you may not already know, they had their first Florida State football had their first scrimmage before the upcoming spring game, which is, I believe, next week. And so, this is the first time they really got to put the pads on, kind of go through some game-like scenarios, and really see what the players, how far they've progressed through the first couple of weeks of spring practice, to see what the progression has been made, especially for the newer players, the freshmen. You have really a big deal for the early enrollees. Now get to get in pads and get to play with some of the 1s and 2s, but also the transfers that you brought in to see how they're meshing so far. And you get kind of somewhat of a, for the coaches, a benchmark of where we are, where we need to be, and how far we've come so far from the beginning of the spring. So far there hasn't been, that I know of, any video that's come out of the scrimmage so far. I don't know how much will come out. I believe some sites are planning on probably releasing some on Monday, where we'll get some snippets of what this looks like. Obviously, if they don't want to give too much away, probably FSU media doesn't want them to give too much away in terms of play structure, stuff like that. But I'm sure that they'll have 5 to 10 minute raw clips of what went on Saturday that we'll be able to watch. It just hasn't been released yet. But some of the things that I heard coming out of it was, some inconsistencies on both sides of the ball. The defense, kind of dominated most of the day, which you would expect. But then there was definitely some flashes from the offensive side, especially some of the newer guys like Johnny Wilson, Micah Pittman, I believe. And then, Trey Benson's really been kind of shining through it on different plays. And some of that has been, they're holding him back a little bit and making sure that he gets acclimating to the program, and making sure that he, coming off that injury last year, that he's good to go. But there were some flashes on the offensive side. What are the things that you've been reading from across the world?
I haven't heard much more
Yeah.
than what you're getting from the sources. I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you. I know that the media was not allowed into this thing,
Yeah.
this scrimmage, this first scrimmage in the stadium. They met with the media afterwards. I looked at some of the tape from Coach Mike,
Mhm.
but Coach Mike, and I like Coach Mike. I really do. I think this guy I don't think he should be on the hot seat no matter what happens this year. I think this guy's working his butt off. I think the coaches are working their butt off. This is a 24/7 job for these guys, and they're really working hard.
Yeah.
I think they're doing their part. Now, that said, they all go to the same coaching seminar, how to address spring football questions, which is basically no answers. They're really good in the political theater of, they don't give you any big negatives for sure.
Yeah.
They don't say anything. And so the media guys, and my hat's off to the media guys, but they don't ask really what I call tough questions. They offer more softball, snowball type questions that these guys aren't going to get raise their eyebrows. I think it's part of the protocol in college sports is not to irritate the head coach so I lose my access. Well, you can ask some legitimate questions without ticking the other guy off. But nothing came out of I looked at it. I ran over his statements a couple times, and he really didn't say much. This guy flashed there, this guy flashed there. The offense had a good day, and then the defense came back. I mean, it's kind of balancing out comments, so when the players start looking online, he knows they're looking online. But you don't get much out of this. And I think they're really, shuffling. When the coaches go back and they look at the film from practice, they start to shuffle out where the depth chart is and where kids need to make improvements. So I think that's all that really comes out of this. If you're hearing, well, this guy made 3 catches and, this guy made a couple of throws, it means nothing. It means really nothing at this point.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You're not going to get too much. Also, they've only had a handful of practices. This is just a scrimmage, so all the fans are looking for what is nugget, where is the footage and stuff like that. But you don't want to make any judgment calls, before we're not even to April yet. So any observations you would make today probably aren't going to mean anything in fall, really, just because there's so many guys being integrated into the team still. They're getting reps with the 1s and 2s, and they're mixing up different things. And it's just, I don't think he wants to say anything too much because he doesn't want to overhype or underhype anyone, because he knows they have a long way to go before they know what kind of the real depth chart looks like.
And I'm not just blaming Coach Mike or his assistant coaches. This goes on throughout college football. I've looked in on other programs. These guys say the same thing. Who was the one coach? I can't remember his name. He's still coach. Oh, he was so blunt and brutal. It was scary. He was calling out, entire units of individuals who need to do this. I mean, he was brutal. What was his name? I can't remember his name. I miss that guy.
Yeah. No.
He was kind of like the Donald Trump of football. I mean, he would just call people out. But most of the coaches have all been to the same seminar.
Yeah, absolutely. So expect to see what kind of gets leaked out over the next couple of days, starting next week. I'm sure, like I said, we'll get some. We already got some FSU media on their socials put out a 1-minute clip of some sights and sounds. But we'll see if there is any more. And then I think 24/7 did a podcast where they were discussing some stuff. But like you said, it's kind of, a lot of starters were playing, I know, on the defensive end, the defensive line. You got to take what they observe for what it's worth. So
I think the positive news is there were no injuries that I'm aware of. There were no major injuries to anybody of a starter.
There were some scares. Lyles, the transfer from Wisconsin, apparently he had to be they brought in the cart, but he pushed it off, and
Really? Yeah.
but then he tried to get back on the field. They're like, no, you're good for today. So it wasn't. We don't believe it's serious. And
Well,
then,
these linemen get rolled up. Their legs get rolled up in the big, when we got a push up front or a guy's running the ball up front, they can get easily rolled up, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then the other one was Travis J. I think same thing kind of happened to him. They called the cart, but then he was able to kind of walk off on his side, and they just kind of ended the day for him. So, other than that, I don't believe there was any major injuries, which is, like you said, the good part. So
I felt a little tweak in my hamstring when I, went into second base, but it worked out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing. A couple of guys I saw that got called out was, Verse got some call outs for being kind of what he's been described as, kind of living up to the hype so far, the speed of like the size and speed that he brings. Once again, he's still developing to the program, but he got some praise directly from the coaches. I know Coach Fuller specifically called him out, along with Amarion Cooper or Duke, as we call him, about his consistency during the game, but also he also called out some of the newer guys like Sam McCall, Azaria Thomas. Those guys are also starting to push. Those younger players are starting to push. So it was interesting, the guys that they decided to call out by name, like those players on the defensive side. On the offensive side, I think the couple of names that we heard, the most was Jordan Travis is the guy, right? There's no competition there. He looks confident, seems confident. And that's what Atkins said, is that he's trusting his pocket. He's trying to stay in the pocket and make more of those in-pocket throws, and having the trust, both of the offensive line and also calling out that the running backs were very much more willing to make those blocks, especially the new guys. And then he also called out, Benson, like I said before, in his performance in the game and the snaps that he got. So those are the couple of guys that were, specifically called out by Atkins and Fuller, which is interesting. But we'll find out when the spring game's actually here, because that's when the public gets to see it. That's when we'll see some real plays and some real situations, and we can actually make our own real evaluations from it. But anything else you want to add to that before we?
No, I think that you summed it up pretty good. I don't get a lot out of the spring ball. I think they pretty much know who their starters are going to be, unless there's a big shift in effort or attitude, or there's an injury. So I think they're trying to get everybody installed with the different plays and what side of the ball you're on, and shift it along that way. So really, we'll just continue to monitor. If something significant comes in, we'll do breaking news, or we'll pick it up on one of our broadcasts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the big topic is, we wanted to come and present, like, what are the biggest three storylines that we think are the biggest three storylines so far in spring. Like I said, we're kind of in that midway point before, or kind of
for football.
For football, correct.
Football.
We're kind of in that past that midway point of getting to the spring game and getting closer to that, because that kind of will cap off really spring practices before they kind of go on hibernation for a little bit of while there. So we wanted to kind of wrap up, or kind of put not a bow on it, but kind of discuss what are our storylines so far. What do we want to continue to track as we go forward? So I'll start with you. What are your top three storylines? Or let's start with the first one. What are your
where this is to date. Okay, correct. This is not for the entire spring, because the spring isn't over yet. So up till today, I actually had 7. Now I know in our scheduling meeting you said just limit it to 3. Okay, we can do 3, and we did not coordinate on these in advance. Mm-hmm. So they're open for discussion, and if there's any fans out there viewers want to listen in and tell us what they think, go for it.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm ranking my top 3. So I'm going to start, and I had 7, so I had to kind of slice and dice these now. So my top 3 is, the first one is the backup quarterback question. Okay. That's number 3 for me on my list. That's number 3. Is I believe there's still a big question there, because if Jordan Travis goes down for any reason, I guarantee you Coach Mike is going to be in the portal and to take what's left over. I guarantee it. He is not ready. He is not committed to going with A.J. Duffy or Rodemaker. There's no doubt. It's got to keep him up at night. So at number 3, I have the backup quarterback as a question mark.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with you on that point. It's a similar one. That's actually one of the top 3s I had as well.
Do you rank it at 3?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's because I'll agree with you there. And I think it's somewhat, it is a concern for me because, like you said, if there's going to be a huge drop off currently in my eyes if you go from Jordan Travis, who's improved his throwing, we know what he can do running, and just is a massive threat to the defensive side of the ball because they don't know what he's going to do. And like you said, right now it appears that there is a huge drop off because whether Duffy he's not going to be taking snaps. So you don't want him taking snaps as a true freshman. You have Geno English, who's basically a walk-on in this role. And then you have Tate Rodemaker, who by all accounts is getting widely praised all through spring practices as they believe he's taken the next steps. Multiple sites are saying that. So the coaches are saying that he's seen year-over-year development. Once again, these are, soft practices. These are, so, it's a whole different if we've seen him in game action, but to his credit, he was more or less thrown into games. I think one was, a couple were his freshman year. Like it's never been ideal situations for him.
Yeah, but but it is. He's not been tested again under true fire of a 270-pound defensive end chasing you down to take your damn head off.
Well, not this year. So he has played. He has.
No, I know that. But what I'm saying is, I have it as a concern at my number 3 because Coach Mike is not going to go the distance. He's not going to go the distance if Travis gets hurt prior to the fall. Once we start fall practice, it's done. It's a done deal. We're going forward. If the right guy pops into the portal, if the right guy pops in after spring, I guarantee you they'll bring a guy in.
Yeah, I thought that before, and it'll really determine if they do think Tate has made this stride and that they feel confident that he can come in and still run the offense, because he is athletic enough to run the ball a bit. They say his athleticism is the most underrated part, that people don't think he can run, that he actually can. If he made the step where you're not going to find another Jordan Travis in the portal, and there's no sense bringing a guy if it's a guy that's not better than Tate Rodemaker. There's no sense screwing up the locker room.
Okay, I agree. That's Coach Mike's going to have to make that decision. But the bottom line is, and especially for Travis, is I wish they would make him stay in the pocket more, even at practices. He loves to run the ball, but he's going to get hurt. And they need to be practicing with him to make sure he can slide on the field and get the hell out of bounds before he gets his head handed to him. Yeah. I mean, he's an aggressive player. Everybody loves that. Everybody loves when he gets the 20-yard gain until the guy crushes him that he doesn't see. And then we're going to have a problem. So I think this debate, and that's why I have this at number 3. It may even be a little bit higher, but a big question mark on what Coach Mike's going to do. Okay, What do you got at number 2 then?
So at number 2, I have the development of the wide receiver room. And so, like we've talked about in other past episodes, we didn't bring in any new high school recruits at the receiver position. And, there was some,
blame Coach Dugan's for.
I think most people do. And most people didn't think he was going to.
Maybe that wasn't their strategy. We really don't know.
Well, but we don't. So, but most people did not expect him to be renewed, got his contract renewed. He's back. Then they bring in, 3 or 4 transfer receivers, some with more production than others. Now, some, like you said, are more project type players that are needing probably a season or two, like Deuce Spann, who's probably not going to contribute right away. But then you have guys like Micah Pittman and Winston Wright.
I don't think Deuce Spann's going to contribut much at all. If he catches 10 balls, if he catches 10 balls beyond the line of scrimmage, I'll be surprised.
But
and I have no disrespect for the kid. He's making a transfer from quarterback to receiver. You don't do that in 6 months.
But that's why it's a concern, and it's why it's one of my storylines, because it was one of those things. It wasn't addressed because you can get a receiver out of high school and they can make a contribution their first year. We didn't get any of those kids. We banked on the transfer portal, and you have him who's probably not going to contribute right away. You have you had Micah Pittman, who was coming off an injury, didn't produce a whole bunch at Oregon, but it was more of his potential. Then you had Johnny Wilson, same kind of deal, didn't produce a lot, more on potential, bring him in. Then you finally got someone in Winston Wright who actually did have proven production. So you had one guy out of all those people that you transferred in who had proven production. And we know, unfortunately, what's happened to him, and he'll probably be out for most of the season or not be, kind of at full capacity for most of the season. So I think that's one of the biggest storylines is do the players that they brought in and they expect, can develop, do they actually develop quickly enough that they can make an impact and lift the performance of that room? Because it was not a good receiver room in terms of consistent production, last year at all. And they need to make that jump. They need players that can make one-on-one catches, that can go over the middle and not drop a ball.
Well, I think separation too. Separation.
Yeah. So because, last year, your highest, receiver, rated receiver had 380 yards. And that's Wilson. So, and then you still have Helton and you have Douglas and McLean back, but you need someone to take that next step, and you need someone to be a true number one or true slot receiver to fill those roles. So and they're saying great things so far about Johnny Wilson, how he's shined in practice. He's making contested catches using his size. He's 6'4", 6'5", a big dude. And so he's using it, but he's willing to go over the middle. He's high pointing balls. So we just need to see if those things come to fruition, because they strike out on all those players going to spring, going to the fall, then they're in trouble, because they, like I said, did not bring in a stud high school recruit who could contribute, have a chance to contribute right away. You banked on these transfer guys coming in with little production on their own that you were going to develop them and get them to kind of buy into the system.
Which leads me to my number 2 spot, and that is the Winston Wright injury. So we didn't pre-coordinate on this at all, but you talked right over it. And that is, they bring in this highly productive guy. I mean, this is the type of guy you want to bring in.
Yeah.
You want to bring in, it's like a job interview. Well, sir, how much experience do you have? Winston Wright says, well, here's my resume. You're in, you're hired.
Yep.
So Winston Wright comes in. He comes in with the best intentions. He's working hard, and he gets caught up, unfortunately, in a traffic accident. We've already gone over that a lot. We don't need to hit that again. Mm-hmm. And he's blessed to be with us after that accident. If you ever saw the car wreck photo, which we've shown before in our show. Mm-hmm. So Winston Wright the injury from an athletic side, and we are a sports show, so we have to touch on that, is a big hit to the room, which means next man up. Other people need to step up until this kid's ready to go again, which may not be this year. It may not be this year. And they don't want to take a chance on his future to rush him back in. But the Winston Wright injury is number 2 for me, because it has a dramatic impact here in the spring. And going forward, it's going to have a major impact. So That's my number 2.
Yep. No, so I think we're both on the same page there. I think losing him is probably it's going to hurt the team versus anybody. If anyone else got hurt in the team, it's going to affect him in us, because, like we said, he had proven production as both a receiver and a kick returner, and that's something that Florida State needed both of. They needed a proven kick returner, which Micah can do, and that's also why they kind of brought him in as well. But I believe, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I believe Winston probably had the combined of all the receivers he probably combined, he probably had the most, all their yards combined in just what he had done at West Virginia. So
I agree.
It's going to be a massive blow.
I totally agree. And especially on special teams, like you mentioned. Now, the one thing on the special teams I see a lot on film is the coaches using a squirt gun. When the ball's coming down. Hey, that's great when it's raining outside. I know he's using it as a distraction. Well, you know what is a bigger distraction? You use some of the scout team guys to come down there and they hear the pounding of the feet and you can see them coming at you. That to me is a bigger distraction than a squirt gun.
We don't know. They could be.
No, I see that. No, I'm sure they do that, but I'd like to see a little bit more of that. than a squirt gun being used. Okay, that's
Sure.
just what I'm saying.
Sure.
We don't sugarcoat things here. People disagree with me, leave a comment. It's okay. I'm all right. I'm a big boy. Okay, so that leads us to number one, and I guess it's my shot to lead the number one, right?
It's all yours.
My number one issue in spring football is bam, the announcement that Gene Deckerhoff, the voice of the Seminoles, is stepping down. Okay, now people say, oh, that's not team related. Heck, it isn't team related. This guy is a superstar. This guy is a legacy. I've listened to Gene Deckerhoff since he came on the air, well before your time, KB, and well before many of the fans who listen to FSU sports shows and media. So they can all say, oh, yeah, we're going to miss Gene. Well, I'm going to miss him more than anybody. I heard his very first show. Okay, so this guy is a legend. He's like Bobby Bowden. We're going to miss Gene Deckerhoff. And I'm going to miss him because his call, I would turn down the ACC network guys. Oh my God. I can't listen to those guys or some of those other guys that we listen to. I would turn it down. Yeah, it would come in on delayed basis. But Gene Deckerhoff, the voice of the Seminoles, is my number one biggest news item in the spring.
And for Jane, we'll play this little clip. Oh, this is a horrible clip. All right, FSU Media posted this.
I don't think you did well with that one.
They posted, as a compilation of him saying the FSU touchdown 2,200 times. So,
he's great. He's great.
He was great.
And everybody can pull those up.
Yeah.
His enthusiasm was so natural, so good. And also the Bucs fans, the Tampa Bay Bucs fans, he's going to be missed. And I right now don't have any rumors of who's going to replace him. So I think that's also the second part of the big news on Gene Deckerhoff. We don't really know who's going to step into that role. So
I think.
How about Danny Cannell? Bring in Danny.
Oh,
he's a little too controversial. Probably.
That would be controversial.
All right, that's my number one. What's your number one?
I think this was tough for me. I think my number one would be, or what I wrote down was the last part of that would be the defensive side of the ball, in particular the cornerbacks.
Narrow it down. That's
the cornerbacks. I said the cornerbacks.
The cornerbacks.
Yes.
I did a great show on the cornerbacks.
And so I think that there's going to be concerns around the less on the line because you bring back Cooper and Fabian and you got first and stuff like that.
You're not saying it's a concern because Brownlee left, right?
No, but that plays into it a little bit. I mean, you do lose whether or not you liked him or not. He was a starter.
I liked the kid.
He was a starter on the defense. So you do lose some depth there.
I don't like him sitting out for whatever reasons he had in mind.
But it remains to be seen if Greedy Vance, the transfer, is going to be better than Brownlee, which most people do not believe he may be a lower equivalent in terms of production. And so that's where I say it's an interesting position group. You have guys like Damari Tate, like the 5-star 3 years ago, who
you got Cooper, you got Knowles, who stepped up big last year.
On a 5-7 football team, so I wouldn't say step up big. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So it's a group that
they took on starting positions, starting roles last year a lot,
and that's what you need to expect from 4 or 5-star players, that they need to come in and be able to play. And so that's why I think it's interesting, because you now have Sam McCall, another 5-star player, Azariah Thomas, who is getting really great reviews. And then you have transfers like Greedy Vance in, you have Amari Cooper who's back, and then you have Damari Tate, who is hopefully starting to develop because he's only going to have 1 or 2 more years to prove that he can play at a higher level. So for me, that's a storyline for me, is because there's a lot of competition in that group, but it's a group that needs to be there needs to be consistent performance there. It needs to take another step up, because there were times, Florida State did lose one-on-one battles in the end zone, and I know it happens sometimes, but it's a position group that I think if the linebacker group can be solid this year, you have a core great defensive line again next year, then it really is going to fall on how well do our cornerbacks play. Can they make another step up in their performance level from last year? Because you do have a lot of young guys mixed with a lot of older guys in that group.
It'll be very interesting to see how they break out the spring football game. They've done that different each year. They'll have a draft or they, I'm not sure to make this into a draft and everybody's having a good time. You should do it for productive value. Put guys on each team that you want to see work against each other. I want to see Jordan Travis work against the number one defensive backs. Yeah. Can he throw against them? Who wins that battle? Yeah. That's what I want to see. I want to see Rodemaker go against maybe the number two backs in the defensive secondary. And then maybe switch those guys to see how Rodemaker does against the number one defensive secondary. Yeah. That's the only way you learn anything. If you're out there to just have fun, then say you're out there to just have fun. Or you only get so many practices. You only get so many. So it has to be structured so you're getting a tape that you can review and see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it's the most interesting group. And just because, like you said, like I said, because it's just a mixture of a lot of new talent, some older talent, some transfer talent, and a group that could be really, really good this year and make a good step up. Because, like you said, some young guys last year had to step in and make, step into those roles, and we'll see how it goes. Or do they stay stagnant? Do these transfers does Gritty not make an impact? Do the freshmen, can they not make that year one impact that we hope they can? So it'll be interesting to watch. But I think that defensive performance overall will hinge on that, because I believe the defensive line group will do really well. Linebackers are getting there with the transfer they brought in with Bethune. So we'll really see. But that was my number one, because that's a group I really want to watch.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We got odds and ends, and then we're out of here.
Yeah. So a couple of things, just news that kind of broke that I don't think we covered on our last show was that Florida State lost a coach that they had just brought on board last year. So Kenyatta Watson is making the move to Georgia Tech. So that was announced, I believe, on
his son plays there.
His
son plays there.
Yeah, but he played there when his kid's like a senior. So his kid was there when he took the job at Florida State. So I don't see that as being a big thing. But Watson was director of player relations at Florida State. So in that kind of semi.
And he's got roots in Georgia. He's got good roots for recruiting in Georgia. But
so he had been on staff since last July. Yeah. And it was seen as one of those key off-field position roles, recruiting staff roles, when they were kind of overhauling it last year and trying to bring more guys on. And of course, we've seen 2 or 3x the amount of people they brought in last year.
There'll be guys coming and going every year.
Yeah, but I think this was a move, and we brought it up on other shows, in terms of there were some missed opportunities with recruits last year where certain guys they thought were getting it. And so there's been back and forth discussion of, was this kind of
whether he had some accountability for that?
Yeah, and there's been some discussion whether or not this was like a, maybe you should go look for better opportunities since we've had new staff members on, or maybe this was just a totally organic move and he wanted to spend his last couple of years with his son.
Well,
because the thing is,
everybody relates everything to family when they step away. Tom Brady said that. Well, I want to go spend more time with my family. Well, the question to Tom Brady should be, so does this mean you want to spend less time with your family now that you're coming back?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, he does. He wants to spend less time.
Yeah. Some people do, right?
Yeah. But I think the one thing that some people are saying on message boards is that, this just shows there's program instability within the Florida State program. Like, well, if you want
what did you say?
Program instability inside the program.
Crap. These coaches come and
go. And it doesn't make sense, because if you were worried about program stability, you want to go to Georgia Tech, where Jeff Collins is about to be fired if they don't turn around next season. So he's on the hottest seat of them all. So
program instability takes place when you start moving your head coach in and out every 2 years, every 3 years. Okay. The coaches can only do so much. You have to look for what are they doing every day to make your program better. But when you want to start to rebuild a program every 3 years, you got program instability.
Yeah.
Okay. And just because you're not winning a national championship or the ACC, or you didn't win 10 games and everybody think you should, that's crap. And we'll talk about wins and losses later in a program. But instability is when you start overhauling the whole program. Coaches are going to get recruited out. Other guys are going to leave for various reasons.
Well,
some of them are going to be for performance reasons. So you always have that in the workplace. Football's no different.
Well, and you saw them overhaul or add a lot of new coaches this offseason. So I think
that's right.
He knows there was issues. So, we don't know if this is mutual, but good for him. And
I've got a couple. I've got a couple odds and ends here. First of all, congratulations to Coach Alameda, our lady softball coach. 800 wins in her career. That's substantial. Okay. We already talked about Coach Sue, who stepped down and is retiring. Another legend, of Florida State athletics, women's athletics. So Coach Alameda, we salute you. 800 wins. And that lady softball team is on point, man. They're on fire.
Yeah.
She is a great recruiter. She's bringing in the best ladies available. And they have a nice facility, and that should be said. Get out and see one of those games. Really good team. And then the last thing I have is there's been some hoopla out there on social media about a verbal quarterback commit for 2024, the Tribe 2024 team, and that's Luke. And let me not butcher his name here. Kramenhoek.
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, he's from Benedictine High School in Savannah, Georgia. In fact, Savannah, Georgia is where Winston Wright is from and where the accident took place. But he has committed verbally to an offer by Coach Mike and Coach Torax. They say he's the guy they want. Now, he's 6'3", 185. He needs to get into a college weight room and maybe get a personal trainer right now in high school so he can be ready to go. You've got him in the fold. You've got quarterback Chris Parsons, who's coming in the 23 class.
Yeah, next year.
He's 23 class.
Yeah.
And, I'd like to see us go back to the homegrown guy and not bring in guys from the portal at the quarterback position. Now, before the portal, you had to do that. You play the guys you bring in. You develop the guys you bring in. And Florida State's done that. There's no reason we can't do that, you know, and we don't need to be bringing in mercenary quarterbacks. But until we get to the point where we can bring these guys in, we need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I have on the odds and ends bag here.
Yeah. I think Luke's an interesting recruit. He's got great size. He was a backup at his high school at Benedictine behind a 4-star Auburn quarterback there. So like I said, he hasn't had a ton of time, so it's more based on potential. But the reason they offered him back in, I think, in July at the Florida State Showcase camp, and they fell in love with him there and just the tools he had. But he's still pretty raw in terms of he hasn't had a ton of starting time. So but he was a sophomore. Like he's got a ton of time.
He reminds me kind of Tate Rodemaker.
Some people are comparing him to more of a Mac Jones type.
He doesn't have the Mac Jones build yet.
No,
for sure.
I mean, he's 16 years old.
But he's very slender. He's going to get torn apart, but he needs to work on that. That's what he needs to work on for the next couple of years. He needs to get to be about 6'3", 225, 230.
That would be a massive weight gain.
I'm just saying.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting pick.
And I sent a note out to him congratulating him on the getting committed. But the consensus, you still got to have ink to paper. You got to have ink to paper.
Well, he's not their prime recruit that they're quarterback. So he's
they're going to bring
someone they're stashing for that class. But he's just a good one to have. And right now he hasn't been highly recruited, but they got him on him early, so that does seem to mean more when you get someone. You got to
get ink to the paper.
Yes, that's true on a lot of things. So yeah, I think those are the biggest things. The last thing I'll bring up is that Florida State basketball. We all know that their season's wrapped up. Weeks ago,
and the women, and the women,
yeah. But for the men, since I'm talking about the men, they're bringing their bunch of kids have already started to jump in the portal around the country. So those talks are already in advance of guys that are being recruited to come in and bring in the next crop of players to fill in the roster. So they're looking at a guy from the Ivy League, a big man from that. And I know we discussed, but the difference of this guy is that he's a smaller, he's not a 6'7" footer. He was at top 10%, top 10% of block percentages in the country. So a talented, skilled guy.
We need a guy who can score, though.
He averaged 10 points per game. But it's just something I'm reporting on. It's not something I'm not here to debate with you on.
Well, I'm just saying. I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm just saying we just saw that in the game of St. Peter's and Purdue. The hell, Purdue had all these big guys, and they can't really score that much. So they can block some shots. They're in and out of the game. There's no continuity of the team. And St. Peter's has like 4 guards that just ran them up and down. Reminds me of that movie Hoosiers. The mice. They got a bunch of mice. They don't have the tree toppers. They got the mice. Remember that in the scene? Yeah. And that's what it is. We need guys who can put the ball in the basket and can shoot the outside. We can't live and die with big guys and 3-point shots. Because I'll tell you right now, my prediction is, unless they really get that roster build up, there's no way they're going to go beyond 500 in the ACC, and they will not get invited to the big dance again. I'm just being honest.
Well, I'm just saying, look out for us. If you want to look him up, his name's Jalen Gainey, 2-time defensive player of the year for the Ivy League, averaged, had led the league with 63 block shots, 6.9 rebounds, career high last year, average per game. And someone they brought in or hosting to see if he was going to fit into the program and potentially be another one of those. We know what Hamilton likes. What kind of players he likes. Average 9 points per game, like I said, shot 70% from the field. So a guy that could fill a hole for someone else leaving. But like you said, not a 7-footer. But it'll be interesting. Just a guy to watch. Like you said, it's. They're obviously going to high school round 2 with some of these players.
They got a lot of holes to fill.
Yeah.
They got a lot of holes to fill.
So if you want to look him up, we'll see. We'll track that and see if we get into paper there. But that's it for the night from my side. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it. I've emptied my odds and ends bag out, and that's it from here. And we'll just keep an eye on things for everybody.
All right. Cool. That sounds great. Well, join us back. Thanks again. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Click on the bell so you get all notifications. And then if you like the episode, go ahead and press the thumbs up button. We really would appreciate that.
Yeah, super. Okay, awesome. KB.
All right. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you all soon. Take care, everyone.
All right, check you out later.
Bye.